Hi, I'm Coral Johnston, life coach, and I would just like to talk briefly today about grief. Grief is a universal experience. Everybody, unfortunately, has to experience it, and some people have to experience it more than once or twice. And if you live a long life, you'll experience it many times. Grief is not only universal to human beings, but animals grieve as well. If you have pets, you've probably seen your animals grieve over the loss of a pet in the household. Or science, there are many scientific studies that, moose and deer and primates and big cats and all kinds of larger animals express grief. And it's thought that even smaller, less complicated ones do. We just don't know the language. So the experience of loss and the grieving that goes with that loss is very universal and therefore extraordinarily understandable. One of probably the most difficult problems about grief is that it often leaves a person grieving alone and struggling with the expectations of how fast they should get over their grief, which is, when you think about it, it's a comic phrase, but we take it just so seriously. So grief is not something that you actually get over. You move through grief if you're fortunate to actually deal with the grief and feel the feeling of grief and sort of move through the stages of grief. Grief is not something essentially that's gotten over. It's something that's moved through and then carried with you. It's a part of yourself, and the closer the person that you lose, the more intensely you carry the marks of that grief. And I don't mean to make that sound so grim, because through the process of grief, there's a great deal of learning, understanding, spiritual stretching that has a benefit for you, believe that or not. So let's go on to say that grief has predictable stages. When we first learn of the death of someone, it's a shock. It can be a shocking death, or it can be a very natural, undramatic death. When a person in their late 90s passes away very peacefully, that is a very natural death that still shocks people. There just is no real preparation for death. Even though you know someone is dying, there is no preparation for the finality of that death. Even if you've experienced death a few times previously, there is no real emotional preparation for how that loss is going to feel. And so almost all deaths are accompanied by some form of emotional shock, which means that you are kind of numb, disconnected from your feelings about it. You might giggle inappropriately or talk loudly or talk inappropriately about it in the first few days. Forgive yourself and everybody else. It's very hard to respond properly because you're so disconnected from your own emotions and your own emotional well-being. The next thing that a person can go through, and keep in mind that these stages of grief are not very orderly, but the next stage is denial. It's a natural occurrence to shock, is to deny the experience happened. This didn't happen to me. This can't happen to me. And so that may not last a long time, or it may last years. It just depends on, one, how shocking the death was, how close the person was to you, and how your natural capability to deal with grief and how your family deals with grief. All those factors come into play. When a person starts to try to face the loss, they often get angry. They might get angry at the person who died for abandoning them. They might be angry at family members for not helping that person enough, or they may be mad at themselves. Perhaps they feel they didn't respond properly to that person in their hour of need. I mean, the list is pretty endless about what we can get mad at. And anger, while it's no fun, is probably preferable to denial. Keep in mind, you really can't help any of these stages. You've just got to go through them in some form or fashion. But the anger stage has this going for it. Anger is the mobilization of emotional energy. So anger is usually preferred to depression, which if you don't flesh out that anger stage, you're probably going to get kind of depressed. And it's very reasonable to say that depression is a very normal, everyday experience to grief and loss. So it's the very rare person that doesn't get depressed. And oftentimes, if they don't, they've got more problems going on than just plain old depression would be. So, shock, denial, anger, depression, somewhere along in there, resignation will set in. And resignation is not all bad. Resignation has the quality of recognizing reality, that this happened. And of course you know it happened. You know, if it was your spouse, you arranged all the funeral arrangement. If it was a parent, you went through trying to help your other parent, trying to help your siblings, them trying to help you, or nobody being helpful, whatever the case may be. You went through a lot of things as the days, weeks, and months progressed with the loss of a loved one. But resignation starts to, facing the real reality of it starts to set in. And again, that can be kind of depressing for people. Grief is not cheerful, and that should be recognized. I mean, you'll have plenty of normal periods. You'll have great energy spurts. You'll get the house cleaned. You'll get work tasks done. You'll get all kinds of things done. But then there's also this kind of thing that happens where a year down the road, you'll look back in your work inbox and you'll see that you don't remember 2/3 of what happened at work, because your mind, while it's functioning and while you're doing their job, it's kind of on autopilot, and you're not really fully present. So you're not going to remember a lot of things as you look back. There'll be a lot of gaps in your memory, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal and natural. Along with resignation can eventually come integration. And by integration, we think of that as sort of a positive thing. It's an acceptance of the loss of the loved one. It's a recognition that they're gone and that you have to deal with that. And it's a recognition of how that changes you inside. If you've lost a husband, you have to change your whole life. And that's a big job. If you lost a child, it's an overwhelming experience that colors everything that you feel and do. If you lost a relative, a brother, a sister, a very close friend, there are constant reminders. So it takes time to get through these stages. But in integration, there's this recognition, and it may only come occasionally in the first year or two, but it's a recognition that you carry that loss with you, that your personality, your spirit, your soul, your emotional being is actually marked by that loss. And the closer that person was to you, the more intense that phenomena is. And so understand that. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't expect to be the way you were before they died. I mean, most of you will be the same. Everybody else will still recognize you. You won't be a depressed, mopey person all the time or anything like that. I don't mean to convey that. But what I have a good friend who lost her mom 2 or 3 years ago, and I know that she grieved a lot. And she's lost a couple family members since then. Her personality hasn't changed, but she's marked by those events, and she would be the first to say that. That loss is a weight she carries. She can't ever bring those people back. That's true for all of us. So understanding that loss will mark you in the sense that it will leave a hole, an emptiness, a gap, something that never gets filled again, because that person just isn't going to be replaced. People even go through these kinds of experiences with their pets, their dogs, cats, horses, squirrels, you name it. And that is not to minimize the grief that we feel with people. It's to recognize that grief is so pervasive when we lose someone. And the key to moving through all this is to recognize that it's a process, that you can't rush it. It's like, you can't make a tree grow by taking a baseball bat and going out and beating the trunk. It won't grow any faster. You'll just feel bad. Well, the same is true by trying to push yourself through grief. Do your best to recognize that the person is lost to you, and your spiritual beliefs comfort you, then that's a wonderful thing, a very wonderful thing. Recognize that this loss will take you some time to process. The closer the person it is, the more we're talking months and years. Losing a spouse, losing a child, losing a parent when you're young. These events take years to fully process. That doesn't mean you're crippled in between. It means that you're dealing with it at some level. These are things that life coaches and counselors can be helpful with. There are Facebook groups that are really helpful on these subjects. And talking to your friends and family is a really good place to start. Recognizing that all families don't deal with grief the same, and some people don't like to talk about it because it makes them cry. But you know within yourself that you can deal with this in some way. But dealing with it usually involves reaching out in some way. It's really hard to deal with grief alone. The comfort of other people is just indescribable. That's why we have funerals, to bring people together to comfort each other. And only thing that funerals don't recognize is that the grieving process lasts a really long time, and we need people around us to help with that. So, hope this was helpful to you.